Okay, so with this tune by the Stereophonics, Dakota, there's a little bit that we need to go through just analysing the music. So first off, notice it's in bass clef. There's no time signature, there's no 4/4, but you will notice there's a little 8 underneath the bass clef, which means basically you can count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it is in 4/4, all right? Don't worry about that too much. Oh, actually, there is actually a 4/4 signature. I didn't see it there. Notice there's a whole bunch of things that look like noughts and crosses boards. They're sharps. So any notes that are on those particular lines or gaps, the values of those notes, you need to sharpen. In other words, let's have a look at the first one. So the first one is up at from the left-hand side. It's on the second top line, which is F. So any Fs we play, we need to sharpen them. So, for example, I have an F here on my D string on the 3rd fret. If I was going to play it in this piece of music, I would sharpen it. So I would play it on the 4th fret. Another place I've got an F, or that sort of F, is I've got one here. We're up here on the 9th fret. That's an F sharp, and I'm on the A string. If I come back a little bit to the 8th fret, that's the actual note, F, and of course the note before that is E. So E is the 7th fret, and then we've got F on the 8th fret and F sharp on the 9th fret. So I could be playing my F sharp up there. If I was playing a low F, I've still got to sharpen it. So even if there was a note below the bottom line, remember from the last song, I've still got to sharpen it because it's an F, and that key signature says, yeah, you've got to sharpen all F. So instead of playing it on the 1st fret like we did in the previous song, I'd play it on the 2nd fret on the E string. So let's look at what notes. We've got an F sharp there. The next one is from the left-hand side. We've got it on the first or the second gap from the bottom. So that's C sharp. So any Cs, which might be the 3rd fret, I've got to sharpen them, take them up 1 fret. We've also got on the very top gap, we've got G, so any Gs I've got to sharpen. And finally, we've got one on the middle line, the middle ledger line, which is D, so any Ds I've got to sharpen. So let's have a bit of a look at the arrangement of this one. You'll notice the song starts off and there's really nothing going on. There's 7 bars. You see that number 7 and that big kind of thick black line type thing. That says we get to rest for 7 bars. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. The next bar, you'll notice there's one single quarter note or one single crotchet, and there's a couple of those kind of squiggly lines. Each of those are rests, and they're worth 1 beat. So you can count 1, 2, 3, and then you've got to play that note, all right? And that note, you'll notice, is like really high up. It's above that top ledger line. So we kind of do the trick that we did in our last song where we had to go below the ledger lines. Now we're going to go above the ledger line. So remember, good burritos don't fall apart. That's the very top line is A. So that note that is sitting just above the line there, that must be B. So we could start our song with a B here. I'm playing up here on the E string, and I've got a B on the 7th fret right there. I could also play it down here on the 2nd fret. That's a B. Remember, we were playing B flats in the previous song, but that's a B there on the 2nd fret. Now, I think I'm going to play it. I think I'm going to play it up here because I notice there's a line, a diagonal line that comes off it. That means a slide. So it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the slide. And we're going to slide from the B down to that bunch of notes that comes in the next bar. And you'll see all cows eat, so they're all E's. I'm going to slide down, and I've got to pick my E. So I've got an E here on the 2nd fret of the D string. Or I've got one here on the same note, E. I've got one here on my A string on the 7th fret. So I could slide down and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I could slide down and go 1, 2, right, and play it up there. But you'll notice I didn't really have time to get from my slide, because I was going down there, back up to this E. So I think what I'll do is I'll slide from here and use this E. That kind of makes sense. So that kind of answers the question a little bit that I'm sure some of you were thinking was, how do you know which note to play when you've got the same note in multiple places all over the bass? Well, it really depends on just picking the one that's closest to where you are at any particular point in time. So I've got a whole bunch of E's, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a single bar repeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the next note, we know what that one is. All cows eat grass, so C. And remember, the key signature said that if there were any Cs, we need to sharpen them. So we're going to play our C. Instead of playing it here on the 3rd fret, we're going to take it up 1 fret. So, and repeat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and then what is our next set of notes there? All cows eat grass, remember for the gaps. So A, it's on the bottom gap. And our A, that's not a sharp or a flat or anything weird like that. So maybe we'll just use our open A string, right? Otherwise, I've kind of got to come up here and play my A. So I'll play that C sharp again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and A, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, E, back to E. All right, that's going to be the main sort of riff of the song. Let's just scout around and see if there are any other notes. So far we had a B, that slide. We've got E, we've got C sharp, we've got A, and I'm looking on the second line and I'm seeing a couple more notes there. So notice there's 2 little notes in the second bar on the second line. They are D's, good boys deserve fruit always, or good burritos don't fall apart. So we've got 2 D's right there, but notice or remember that they're sharpened. So we've actually got to play them up. So I've got a D that I could play here, or I could play my D sharp down here on the 1st fret. Remember, I've got my open D string is my 3rd string, so the 1st fret would be D sharp. So let's try and figure out which one we might use. We'll already be coming down. We've just been playing a bunch of A's on the open string, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and this is the first line at the end. Now I'm on the second line. I'll be coming into my E's, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3. So I think I'll play my D sharp down there because I'm already sort of in that area. So I've got my E's on the 2nd fret of the D string, and my D sharp will be the 1st fret, and I do 2 of them before I go back into my E's. So I think that's all the different notes, at least for most of the song. Couple other things just to talk about quickly. Notice those big black brackets. They start on the second line there where it says verse, and they go all the way down to 2/3 of the way down the page, and you'll see another set of them. So we're going to have to repeat all of that music as we go through it. And it's pretty common in bass music. You're going to see that type of thing a lot. So all of those bars we're going to repeat. So we're talking about all the way down to line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least on the music I'm looking at. So a whole bunch of stuff going on there. What else we got? Notice that little thing on the second line where that repeat starts. It looks like an F, and it's got a line through it. The technical name for that is a sign, S-I-G-N, and it's actually a Latin sort of word. When you see that, you just observe it. You don't do anything with it just yet. So you play all the way through all that music. You get to that repeat. You go back up to the first bracket again, and you play through it all again. And this time, because you've already repeated all of that stuff once, you keep going. So you'll keep going with the music, and I'm just scrolling down here on my music. And you'll basically get to the bottom of the page, or you'll get to the bottom line of that big chunk of music, and you'll notice there's some notes there that say DS al coda. Del segno, al coda. It's Latin. What it means, the DS means go and take the sign, go back up to the sign, in other words. It's like another repeat, if you want to think of it that way. So you'll go up to the sign, and then you'll play through this whole thing all over again without the repeats, and then you'll take the coda. And the coda is that one line at the very, very bottom of the page. See that thing that's like a circle with a cross through it? It means you will then take the coda. And the coda is used in music a lot to indicate an ending. That's typically where you see them. The sign is used to redirect you. Typically, you've been playing something, a verse and a chorus, and they want you to play the verse and the chorus again. That gets used a lot in music. And the coda is typically used to say, hey, now go off to this last piece of music, or this last few bars of music, typically in endings. We're not going to get too caught up in all of that. In fact, we won't play the whole thing. I just want to get you started. So remember, a whole bunch of breaks. We can count them, 1 and 2 and, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to do a slide, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to slide down to our E. All right, let's give it a go. Let's see if we can make some sense of all of this. All right, so with this playthrough, remember we're going to start with 7 bars of no bass. And I'm actually going to point out to you there is a mistake in the transcription, or maybe it's just a different arrangement. But when we get down to the pre-chorus, I'm looking at around about line 40, that bar there. You'll notice that it says, I think it'd be bar 41, and it goes to an open A. Actually, in the arrangement that we're going to play along to today, instead of going to that open A in line 41, we're going to go back up to the repeat. So it's, I think this arrangement, maybe they had like a double length pre-chorus. So we're just going to try and play along correctly with this recording that I've got, and we're not going to repeat, or we're going to cut the pre-chorus in half basically. So we're going to treat at bar 41, we're going to treat that as the end of the repeat. We'll go back up to the verse, and we'll take it through. So I'm not going to play the whole thing all the way through. But I will at least get to there so you can get an idea. And, you know, that's one of the things when you're playing something and you get to the point where you're just using your ears and you're not really thinking about what the notes are, you're not really reading the notes anymore, then that's probably time to find another piece of music, something new, because you're not really practicing your sight reading. Now, the exception to it is if you're playing something and there's like a tricky piece that you keep falling over or stumbling with, by all means, you know, you might have memorized the other parts leading up to that before then. And, you know, so you just kind of play through those, memorizing them, but then stop and think about those tricky parts, figure out what the notes are, or have a listen to what the timing might be. Whatever's giving you problems with it, go back and work on that bar. Now, initially, don't spend too much time with tricky parts, all right? It's okay to let them go. What we're trying to do is get familiar with the notes, get familiar with some of the patterns of the rhythms, like the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're trying to get used to where some of the notes are on the bass, and to try and find different positions to play things. So all that stuff is important. Don't get too caught up if you never quite get the song perfect, right? Because that's not really the point of learning to sight read at the start. So here we go. This is the rest at the start, and you could be counting 2, 3, 4, 1, all that. Slide down from the B. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and open A. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3. C sharp. A, back to E, A, pre-chorus, back to E, that was the part where we go back. C sharp. Back to the pre-chorus. A. we've already done this repeat once, so we go all the way through. Chorus. All right. So we got all the way through. We did that big repeat between the two brackets, but remember we actually moved the repeat bracket up to match with the song at about line 41 or bar 41. We played through it all a second time, and we went all the way through to where I said chorus, and you can see on the music that would be 47, 48, 49, bar 49. The second time through I kept going and I played through that chorus, and then I got to the end there. Now I would have gone through the whole thing again, and you get the idea. The song is pretty repetitive. So these are two great songs. One of the things that you want to work on when you're practicing this stuff is making sure you're using proper technique and trying to avoid looking at your left hand. You would have seen me glance at it a few times. I'm sort of playing with the music in front of me, in front of the camera here, and I can just see out of the corner of my eye. I can see my hand, but I got my fingers over the top of the notes before I even started, right? I didn't like put my finger like there and then go, oh, gee, the next note's C sharp, where's C sharp? I already had my fingers over the top of the notes ready to go, and that's really important. The only one that was a bit tricky for me was I had to kind of slide down to get that D sharp and sort of trust I was sliding down there. Have a go with these. I'm going to do another session on some more easy songs, and maybe we'll even do some easy intermediate ones. And let me know what you think. Good luck with it. Don't rush the process. Be open to making mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. In fact, I made a few mistakes in that I was just playing. I'd be interested to know if you picked them. Go to Tom Reed, download some bass tunes, and remember, once you start memorizing things, you're not really exercising your sight reading so much. And be prepared at the start to have to actually go through and figure out where the notes are. Good burritos don't fall apart, all cows eat grass, and you're also probably going to have to find them on your bass as well. And if they seem like they're a long way apart, maybe have a look. Maybe you're missing where there's an easier way to play something, and of course I can always help you out with that too. Anyways, I think my next lesson I'm planning on doing is maybe something on fills. So we'll do a session on fills. I've got some ideas about maybe a slap lesson we can do, and some ideas about walking bass lines, and I would like to try and do another one of these sight reading lessons. Anyways, we'll see you in person in May.